I have.
So we have 2 readings this week in Readers 1. So keep you busy in reading this week. Maybe you want to read both each day. Maybe you want to alternate between the 2 each day. But you can see there is a comparison to be made between these 2 readings. So, sorry, I've got a sweet that's going to help us through. So we turn to these 2 passages in Scripture, Isaiah 6 and Revelation 5. You need a bookmark or something perhaps to page 690 and 1237. So put 2 fingers or the bookmark or the news sheet or something in there so you've got those 2 passages with you. And just while I remember, we are going to be concentrating on the Isaiah passage this morning, so if nothing else, keep that one open in front of you as I speak this morning. Let's again, and it's worthy of doing this each time, remind us what it is that we're reading from. I hold God's word in my hands. It encourages, corrects, and instructs me. Lord, speak to me now. So the Isaiah passage, starting at verse 1. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on the throne, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphim, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe to me, I cried. I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphim flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he had taken with tongs from the altar. With it he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away and your sin atoned for. Then we turn to the Revelation passage on page 1237. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but please do read the whole passage during the week. But again, I'm just using the comparison part really from verse 9. Which says, You are worthy to take the scroll and to open its seals, because you were slain, and with your blood you purchased for God persons from every tribe and language and people and nation. You have made them to be a kingdom and priests to serve our God, and they will reign on the earth. Then I looked and I heard the voice of many angels, numbering thousands upon thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, and they circled the throne, and the living creatures and the elders. In a loud voice they were saying, Worthy is the Lamb who was slain, to receive power and wealth and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and praise. And I heard every creature in heaven and on earth and under the earth and on the sea, and all that is in them, saying, To him who sits on the throne and to the Lamb be praise and honor and glory and power forever and ever. And the 4 living creatures said, Amen. And the elders fell down and worshipped. What an image that those two passages give to us. We are starting a new series today. I'm sure a lot of you have been expecting it since last November, that of worship. And I called this series The Greatness of God. The greatness of God. Because really that is what worship is about, the greatness of God. And today the title is God is on the Throne. Having read those two passages, you can see why I picked that title. God is on the throne. You know, nothing happens by default. Even if we do nothing, it is a decision that we make to do nothing. So nothing happens by default. It's all out of choice. We can decide to be the best employee, mother, father, grandparent, singer, whatever. And we can choose that, and we can decide that, and we can work hard to be involved in that and try and achieve our goal, or we can decide just to sit around and do nothing. But each one of those is a choice that we make. A decision on our part. Why am I saying this? Because worship will not happen unless we make a conscious choice, a direct decision to be worshippers. This is so important to understand when it comes to worship. And in my studies about worship at the end of last year, I kind of was really absorbed with a lot of the things that I'm saying in these next few weeks. We must choose to prepare for worship. You know the story of Mary and Martha in Luke 10. Well, it's certainly in Luke 10 verse 40-42. Let me read this little bit of passage about the storyline, just to remind you. Remember, Jesus had come with the disciples, knocked on Mary and Martha's door as he had done before, and came in as a kind of a resting point before going in or out of Jerusalem, because Bethany, where they lived, is just on the other side of the Kidron Valley. So this is what it said. But Martha was distracted. That's the word that's used in the NIV. Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Tell her to help me. And Jesus says in verse 41, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but the one thing is needed. Mary has chosen. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. Mary has chosen. There were lots of things to be done on that day when Jesus turned up. And these two sisters were in the house. And when Jesus walked into the room, there was a clear choice to be made. To do things around him, or to just sit and honour him. We can get distracted on doing things around the Lord and actually forget to honour the Lord, to sit at his feet and show worship to him. And that can happen on a Sunday morning even, as we come to church, to our service. We can make sure that we've got the notices right, and the songs are right, and the prayer time's there, and the message is all prepared for, and so on, and the offering is taken. And we can make sure that we're doing all the things that we kind of think are important to a Sunday service. But we can be doing things around Christ and yet not actually worshipping the Lord. You know, on Sunday morning, once we get to 10:30, we should be in our seats, opening our hearts up before the Lord, praying, reading the Bible, tuning into the Lord. You know, I didn't deliberately trick you this morning, but I didn't put on a countdown. I put on a video just showing the awesomeness of God's creation out in space. And it was 10:30. And yet, there was a lot of talking going. I'm not chastising anyone, just saying how it works. Because we're probably used to it. Because I changed it. You see, we just kind of got into the same system. We're waiting for a countdown. But we need to be preparing ourselves. Getting in early if anything, but certainly as we get nearer the time, we need to pause and stop and just reflect exactly what it is that we're doing here on a Sunday morning. You see, like Martha, we can be worried about putting on the lights or setting up the mics or moving seats around or catching up with friends' news or discussing even areas of ministry or even church business and so on. But once we get to the time of our service, whether anything's actually starting up at the front, if you will, we can stop and we can focus on the Lord. Because He is the main reason that we gather here at 10:30 to worship Him. Another choice that we have to make on a Sunday is whether we actually participate in worship or not. See, it's not about whoever's leading at the front, who is speaking this week, or whoever's taking the service this week, or it doesn't matter so much about the songs or the hymns that have been chosen on that day. It doesn't matter about the start time. It doesn't matter about the finish time. It doesn't matter about the temperature of the room, or the length of the sermon, or the number of people that happen to be here on any particular week, or anything that we may or may not like about a service that we're attending on a Sunday. That's really neither here nor there, if you understand what I'm saying in perspective. We need to choose whether we are going to fully engage in worshipping the Lord. And that is a personal choice for each one of us that comes through a door on a Sunday morning. Whether I happen to like this song or not doesn't matter. And I choose songs that I don't always appreciate or whatever, but I can't do a mixture. Hopefully we're all going to like something. But that's not the reason that we sing those songs, because we like them. I'm going to sing whatever song as an act of worship to my Lord. And I'm going to wholeheartedly do it because I'm worshipping Him and not the song of the songwriter. It doesn't matter whether Joe looks interested or bored in the message. I'm going to focus on the Lord because I'm going to give Him my best. And no matter what other people are doing or thinking around me, or how many people there are or whatever, I'm going to focus on the Lord and worship Him. Because that's ultimately why we are gathered here as God's people. And whether I feel tired or achy or annoyed at something, God is worthy of my worship. And I will give Him 100%. You know, we might say to other people, oh, sorry, I'm feeling, tired at the moment, or achy or something else has kind of cropped up, and I don't feel that great, or whatever. But we're talking about worshipping God here. I'm saying, Lord, it doesn't matter if my joints are aching to bits, I'm still going to come and I'm going to worship you. Doesn't matter whether I've heard bad news or I don't feel that I've got out of bed the wrong way and so on, and the wrong side. It doesn't matter, I'm coming to worship you. You are my God. You know the words of Deuteronomy 6 and verse 5? God gives a directive to his people, including us, where he says, love the Lord your God with part of your heart, part of your soul, part of your strength. No, he doesn't say that. He says you love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your strength. How much of our strength do we put into worship on a Sunday morning? How much of our heart do we throw into worshipping the Lord? You know, nearly, well, I'd say probably pretty much everyone in the UK worships. Pretty much everyone in the United Kingdom worships. Because God created us human beings to worship. And he created us to worship him. That was the way that he built into us, if you like, that we should worship him. So if we are not worshipping God, we start worshipping someone or something else, because it's built into us. And worshipping anything or anyone other than our Creator then distorts our perspective and values in life. And you see it happening all the time. And people aren't wholeheartedly worshipping God. They are worshipping other things or other people, and it distorts their whole life. If we worship possessions in some way, we measure the value of a person based on what they own and what they have. So it distorts our way of living. If we worship our work and the things that we do, we measure the value of people based on their abilities. So what do you do? What have you achieved? If we worship ourselves, and let's face it, some do, we measure the value of another person based on the perspective of ourselves and how we look and how we appear to them. So our readings this week, one from the Old Testament, one from the New Testament, give us just a kind of a sneak peek, as they say, of God in heaven. Oh, but what a peek it is. I mean, just really read that passage, those two passages through time and time again this week. Get a different version as well and see a different perspective, a different angle on it. Written by two very different people, hundreds of years apart. And yet we see this very similar image of God. I say image, but both, of course, are of those who are seeing. It is a kind of a human vision, if you like, of a spiritual world. So this image is of the invisible. This is just an image, this is a vision that God gave Isaiah and John, that they could kind of take in humanly what heaven is like. So God and his heaven are beyond our understanding, of course. If we start limiting the vision that we're given in Scripture kind of to physical things, then we're restricting God. But here we get this understanding of how worshipping God should be. Read those two passages, I keep saying, read those two passages this week, and it really gives you a vision of what worship should be like. Our worship to God. And we see God in his magnificence. Total honour, total respect, total reverence to him. People just bowing down towards him because he is who he is. No one just sits around in God's presence. They are honouring, they are bowing, they are flying, they are lifting their hands. But make no mistake, we so often think of God and his love and his care and his compassion for us, and all those things are right. But God has total power. Okay, look through the verses of Isaiah 6, as I say. Keep that open in front of you. We're going to have a look through this passage together. If you haven't got it open, flick it open. Isaiah 6. Opening understanding of worship in this new series. This passage was probably the first one I went to when I started to think about worship during my study leave. So why not have it the first one today? Looking through these verses in Isaiah 6, there are three things, probably more, but I picked out three things. Three attitudes that we can find in worshipping God. And the first attitude of worshipping God in verses 1 to 4 is that of the Lordship of God. The Lordship of God. To truly worship God, we need to acknowledge Him as Lord, as King, as sovereign ruler. Jesus said in Matthew 6 and verse 24, "No one can serve two masters. Either he will hate one and love the other, or he will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money or materialism at the same time. You can only worship really one thing. You can't worship several things. Because in the very fact of what worship is, it is giving your whole life over. It is dedicating yourself to that person. It is thoroughly just giving all of your heart and soul and mind to that one thing that you worship. You can't half give your soul and mind to something you worship. To truly worship God, we need to acknowledge Him as Lord. The one who controls our thoughts, the one who controls our emotions, the one who takes up our time and our actions is our Lord, is the one that we serve. If God is not the Lord of all, then, as someone said, He is not the Lord at all. So just ask you a question to be pondering about, perhaps even this week. Who controls your time? Could be a lot of other things we could talk about control, but who controls your time? TV programs? Hobbies? Work? ... Fill in the space. So many of our churches would rather be the ones who, or so many in our churches rather, would rather be controlling God rather than God controlling them. We ask Him to change a situation for us, Lord. Now, who's in control of that when you ask that question, when you make that statement in prayer? Lord, will you make this happen? Will you change that for me? Who are you saying is in control? I want you to control it. I want you to change it. I want you to move this for me. I want you to help me in this. We ask Him to give us things. Some of them quite worthy sounding things. Lord, give me peace. Make this day a happy day for me. Again, who's controlling? We can treat Him like an eternal Santa Claus in our prayer life. And I caught myself doing it only an hour ago. I went into the prayer room for a moment and I started to say in my prayers, I caught myself, Lord, help me in this service this morning to do... I thought, no, that's asking you. I'm controlling God. So I stopped. And then I said, Lord, use me this morning. Not help me. Not as if I'm doing okay, I just want your help. Lord, use me this morning. Big difference. And we have to to be careful what we pray. We need to get this fixed in our hearts and minds. God is Lord. He is King. He is sovereign. And what He says goes. When you look at those two visions in Isaiah 6 and Revelation 5, what He says goes. There was no one going up there saying, "Excuse me, Lord, can you give me a nice day today?" Or "Can you help me out with this one?" So the first attitude of worship is the Lordship of God. He is on the throne. What He says goes. He's sovereign. Second attitude of worship then, that we find in verses 5 to 7, is the humility of humankind. A human's humility when they come to worship. That should be the attitude, the second attitude when we come to worship our Lord. Our humility. When Isaiah saw God in this vision, he not only recognized that God was the true ruler of his life, sovereign over him, but he recognized his own sinfulness and the sinfulness of the people that he was part of. Humility is the ability to see ourselves as God sees us. That wasn't my quote, that was somebody else's quote. I can't remember those. Humility is the ability to see ourselves as God sees us. I like that phrase. When Isaiah saw the glory of the Lord and the Lordship of God in heaven, with all creatures declaring the holiness of God, the absolute purity of God, what did he say? Woe is me. Woe is me. Why? Because he saw how far short he was in God's presence. I'm ruined, he said. Suddenly realized, uh-oh, I may be God's prophet, but boy, in comparison with this sovereign God that I'm before now, I'm a sinner, I'm ruined, I'm messed up, I've had it. I'm a man of unclean lips. This is a prophet talking. Total humility. Some in our churches talk and act as if they are someone nearer to God than others. That they have a deeper spirituality than others. You know, we shouldn't be looking around trying to appear more spiritual than other believers. Nor should we get depressed when there are some around us who seem to be at a different spiritual level, or kind of closer to God. Because worship actually levels us. There is God's prophet, been used by God, Isaiah, the one prophet that we remember and we think of and so on, and there he is going to God's presence and go, I'm wrecked. Because once I start worshipping God and seeing God as who He is, I'm wrecked, I'm ruined. I just need to cringe and walk out of here. So worship actually levels us. We are all, every single one of us here this morning, every one part of Highfield Community Baptist Church, we are all of unclean lips and unclean lives. When we come into God's presence, we're all level. We all could say, I'm ruined. I'm a wreck. And we all need to come and be humbled before our God, before we can really worship our Lord. Isaiah 66, not Isaiah 6, but Isaiah 66, this is what the Lord says in verse 1 following. Heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where is the house you will build for me? Where is my resting, where will my resting place be? Has not my hand made all things? And so they came into being, declares the Lord. These are the ones I look on with favour, those who are humble and contrite in spirit, and who tremble at my word. You read that last verse again. This is what God really looks for in his people. These are the ones I look on with favour. Those who are humble, those who are contrite in spirit, and who tremble at my word. Just to reinforce that, let me say the words of Jesus in Matthew 23 and verse 12. Again, you know them. For those who exalt themselves will be humbled. And those who humble themselves will be exalted. One more passage, Ephesians 4, verses 1 to 3. As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Live your life worthy of the calling you received. What is that life? Be completely, get it? Humble. Yeah, I'm guessing. I've just said about humble about 6 times. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Bearing with one another in love. In other words, it's kind of not, I know what I'm talking about, and you don't. Bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. Jesus says, of course, blessed are the poor in spirit. Not the poor financially. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Those who are humble before our God, they are the ones that are truly blessed. Those are the ones that are truly happy. We cannot wholly worship God unless we are humble. Unless, like Isaiah, we go, woe is me. Because before God, doesn't matter whether I feel I'm richer, better, more educated, whatever, than somebody else on this planet. Before God, I am brought down. So the third attitude of worship, which you get in verses 2 and 3 and verse 8, just go cross-eyed on that one. The seraphs are these heavenly beings whose purpose are to worship God and serve God. That's what they're doing. They're worshipping and serving Him. In God's presence, worship and service normally go hand in hand. Or, in the seraph's case, wing in wing. But the prophet Isaiah, part of his worship was to offer service. He comes into God's presence, he recognizes the awesomeness of God and the fact that He brought right down low and so on. But then there is this willingness, this wanting to serve His great God that He is in front of. And so in verse 8, in response to the question from the Lord, who will go for us? Who can I send? Isaiah, having entered into God's presence and worshipped Him, seen the almightiness of God, been brought right down humbly, says, here am I. Send me. I'm here to serve this living, mighty, powerful God. So worship, acknowledging God's lordship. It's not about us, it's about Him. bowing in humility, falling prostrate on the floor if you like, kneeling, however it is, to really acknowledge God is mighty and I am not. And thirdly, in worship, an act of worship is to say, Lord, get this line that hopefully you're saying when you wake up in the morning. Lord, what do you want me to do today? How many of us can say that we truly worship the Lord? How many of us are going to be open to learning about worship during this series? I hope all of us, including me. You know, I recognised about September, October time, I was a little late trying to work out a theme for my study leave, but I recognised that as I got into the new term, so to speak, that I stand up here on a Sunday and I preach, but I also lead the worship. And I kind of decided to think, well, what really is the worship? And as I said, when I came back, I kind of realised that a lot of what we do on a Sunday morning, or have been doing at least up until recently, is that we've been praising God, we've been thanking God. But maybe often we haven't been really worshipping God. And we're going to do a little bit of that as best as we can in a moment. But let's bow before our Lord in prayer. Father God, we understand you to love us and care for us and send Jesus to die for us, and we think so often about your Son in a human format, and perhaps take our eyes off of the almighty spiritual power that controls the whole of this universe. Father, may we be humbled before you. May we truly worship you, give of our whole lives to honouring you. Because that's what we're going to be doing for all eternity if we start now. So Father, help us in these few moments that remain to give ourselves over to worshipping you. It doesn't matter what is being led from the front, it doesn't matter what song is being introduced, it doesn't matter what video clip is being put on, it doesn't matter who's around us and what time it is. Let us truly make a decision that we're going to worship you in the next few minutes. And this I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.